Pokemon FireRed was my first Pokemon game. It was the game that got me into the series and cemented my bias towards Fire-type Pokemon in general. I've also never finished this game before. In the nearly 20-odd years I've been playing this game on and off, I've never sat down and completed it beginning to end. Naturally, I figured this will make a good choice for my first Nuzlocke. To those unfamiliar with the Nuzlocke Run, there are two basic rules. You can only catch the very first wild Pokemon you find in an area. If you enter an area for the first time and see a Pidgey, either catch that Pidgey for your team or kick it into the next life. At that point, you can't catch anything else in that area. For my run, this applies to the entire location. If the entire area is considered Route 24, for example, the first Pokemon I see there is the one I'm allowed to get. This also applies to purchasable Pokemon and special legendary encounters. If I don't get any wild Pokemon, but I am given the option to buy or trade, then I'm allowed to get it. Rule number 2 is that if a Pokemon faints, it's done, dead, gone, release it to the wind. If I have no usable Pokemon stored in box, it's game over. Otherwise, everything else is fairly normal. Play the game as you do like any other playthrough, collect animals, beat up children for their lunch money, embarrass an organization of criminal adults, so on and so forth. Just to note, I'll be mainly discussing notable events, but I will not be going over each and every single thing I did in each playthrough, as there's only so many times I can say I beat so-and-so trainer in battle before wanting to vomit. Here we go. My early attempts at the run can be characterized by one sentence. Constant failure. I'm lumping these three together since I both A, didn't get very far, and B, used these opportunities to understand what the hell I was doing wrong. I first named me after me, and named Gary after evil me. Played video games, spoke to mom, changed some quality of life features, an old man stopped me before I got mauled to death by rats, and he gave me a wild animal. I chose Charmander because he's superior to all the other starters. Bite me. I named him after the abomination I hide behind in these videos, and Zam proceeded to fight me in the middle of the extremely expensive science lab. He nearly got me by spamming Tail Whip, but the fight ended quickly. I left town, a man gave me drugs, and I encountered the first Pokemon I'm not able to catch due to a lack of balls. I spent a little bit leveling up Charmander and healed at Vermilion City. I got Oak's package from the store and made my way back to town once Charmander was level 9. Oak thanked me with a Pokédex and some Pokeballs, I got a town map from the nice lady next door, and watched an old man catch a bug. Further north, I ran into my first catchable Pokemon, a level 3 Rattata. Caught it with my not first ball and named it Jerry. After healing, I started to level him up within reason, swapping in Charmander when necessary as to not lose anyone too early. During this time, critical hits proved to be annoying. Nothing's more annoying than trying to level up your weak Pokemon, losing it to a Pokemon that literally just came out of its egg. At this point, I created a graphic to show how many and what Pokemon I have on me at any given time, and made a small adjustment to the game footage placement. Jerry nearly died to his natural predator, but grew to level 7 once I killed it with Charmander. I then went to the one place every child wants to be while protected by wild animals. The woods. I ran into the first Pokemon, a Metapod, but Jerry landed a critical hit on them and killed them. I then started wiping out the local bug population and found a loose Pokeball in the grass. Wandering further north, I found Rick and his bugs. In my first non-rival battle, Jerry made it to level 9 and absolutely destroyed this kid. The next battle introduced me to a bad thing known as poison, which would prove to be a massive problem through these early attempts. Once Doug was sent packing, I realized Charmander was on death's door. Thankfully, a conveniently placed antidote was nearby. On the third trainer, I used Jerry to bring him further up to speed, taking him to level 10. A worm poisoned him, and I moved Charmander back up front to steamroll everything else. I pushed to Pewter City and healed up, bought medicine, spoke to a nerd who dragged me to the museum. Another nerd took me to the gym itself. I didn't even know that was an option. I battled the one trainer in the gym to test the waters, and found Sand Attack to be an absolute pain in the butt. Just for the giggles, I took on Brock immediately. You can see where this is going. At this point, Charmander knew Metal Claw, Steel beats Rock in these games, so this was a no-brainer. It worked fine right up until Onix showed up, Charmander died, and only Rattata was left. Rattata didn't have much health, but I thought he would do well, right up until he didn't. Onix was an inch away from death, but a single quick attack wasn't enough to do it. One tackle sent Jerry to the grave, ending the first attempt. On the next day, Max II was born, along with my new rival. Balls. The same song and dance happened, named Charmander Godzilla, made turtle soup out of balls, got to Viridian, caught a Pidgey, named it Bird with the appropriate spelling. Bird sadly got taken out by a critical hit from its own kind. Caught a Caterpie in Viridian Forest, named it Wormy, clearly I still have the Spongebob brain rot. I ran back to Viridian, healed up, forgot to release Bird, ran back, said goodbye, and had to scrap the run because I closed the game and forgot to save. Third me was born, and I ran out of names for the rival very fast. I named Charmander after that one character in the 70s Godzilla cartoon I read about because he's inferior in every way to his predecessor, and it was around here where I mapped the fast forward function to my PS5 controller's touchpad to save some time. Got my Pokédex, napped at home, killed a few rats, caught a new Pidgey, caught another Caterpie in Viridian Forest, named it Wormington, remembered to save this time, harassed the local wildlife, Burb was poisoned to death, invested in medicine and Pokeballs, Wormington died. I got mad and started burning down everything I found in the forest, taking the time to grind Charmander up to a suitable level. By the time he got to a good level, he had evolved into Charmeleon and I considered myself ready to fight Brock once more. I wasted no time and spammed Metal Claw as much as I could. Onyx nearly killed him, but I took him out, and successfully got the Boulder Badge. I was given the ability to run by one of Oak's aides and started beating up the local children for their lunch money. By the end of the beatdown, Charmeleon was around level 19. I ran into a Mankey on Route 3, caught it, and gave him a name to remind him of his lack of value to me. Later on grinding, I battled a kid I thought I could easily take with NFT, but the mother pulled out a level 14 Spearow. A girl walked towards me and accused me of touching her. I beat up her Jigglypuff for that, found out somebody funged my tokens, entered Mount Moon, and found a Zubat. I caught it and gave it the best name I could think of. Grinding was done in the cave as I periodically left to heal at the Pokemon Center outside. I debated buying the Magikarp from the salesman inside, but decided it wasn't worth it. Some more grinding later, Morbius reenacted the general feeling people had watching the movie, and I went back into Mount Moon once my team was safely in double-digit territory. With Mankey being a fighting type, the rock types made it a perfect place for him to level up. Apart from the apparent bug catchers in this cave, which proved to be annoying. A Kakuna spamming Harden made grinding with my Zubat a pain in the ass. A Paris paralyzed Godzuki, much to my annoyance. I ran to my first team Rocket Grunt, and a stand attack spamming Sandshrew showed up again. Later in the cave, I won against another Grunt and found Marlton from Call of Duty Zombies. His Grimer, Coughing, and Voltorb went down in one hit each. I took the superior fossil and reached the surface. On Route 4 proper, I caught a Spearow that I forgot to name, healed in Cerulean City, and lost Morbius to a critical hit. I spoke to the locals, explored the town, and goofed it real bad by running into Gary. I was nowhere near prepared for this fight. In hopes I could sweep him, I pulled out Charmeleon, but then he pulled out Squirtle. NFT stood a decent chance, but his use of withdrawing random crits proved to be a problem. Spearow fell fast, I tried to spam Smokescreen to no avail, one water gun took out Charmeleon, and NFT was lost not too long afterward, ending run 3. At this point, I was reevaluating what I was doing and now had a better understanding of how I needed to proceed moving forward. There were certain events I needed to take into account before even considering taking on the gyms. I had to know when to grind and for how long, and what level would be the most appropriate for my team before I can proceed. At this point, figuring out the rest of the playthrough was easy. Between all my recording sessions, I only restarted the game 3 times. Attempt number 4 was where everything came together. Max IV was born. I named Charmander after an old friend for good luck and went on my merry way, making liberal use of the fast forward function to get through places I already been through. I found the old man dead on the floor and did the standard things that the player needs to do when they start the game. Package delivery, map collecting, rat killing, boomer surveillance, standard stuff. I caught a Rattata on Route 2. He felt like a Randy, proceeded to grind Flameo until he was level 10 and Randy was at level 9. Bought medicine again, and entered the forest one more time. I caught a Kakuna, named it after Goku because I actually really like Beedrill, and found out it only knows Harden, which is just f***ing wonderful. Battling the trainers got me more XP faster than battling wild Pokemon, which was perfect for grinding. Randy got poisoned again, which wasn't a total issue since I actually had supplies now. Kakuna didn't learn anything useful until level 10, and even then he still had to evolve into Beedrill to actually do so. Grindfest began until I got everyone to a nice and healthy level in the mid-10s. Kakarot was at level 13, Randy level 16, and Flameo, now a Charmeleon, level 18. I told Brock he sucks and began the battle. Flameo made quick work of both Geodude and Onyx, netting me the Boulder Badge once again. I got some new feet, battled the local children once more, caught a Pidgey on Route 3, named it Loser, brought it up to speed, entered Mount Moon, got another Zubat, named it Morbius 2, and he did a little better compared to his namesake. Nearly lost Morbius to another Zubat, got the Dome Fossil again, and entered Cerulean City. Did some battling outside of town, evolved Loser into Pidgeotto, and Morbius 2 got two-shotted by a Spearow. I decided to clear the trainers in the Cerulean Gym early, the water Pokemon inside proving to be pretty simple to fight. I was worried about a Shellder using Icicle Spear on Kakarot, but I was reminded that that move isn't worth its weight in shit. Randy became Eradicate at level 20, and Hyperfang was proving to be a ridiculously powerful move for such a basic Pokemon. Once the rest of my team was around level 21, I talked to Misty, Kakarot made her look weak by taking out Staryu in one shot, and Randy dealt the finishing blow on Starmie, earning the Cascade Badge in the Water Pulse TM. Walked up to Gary intentionally this time, and started whittling away his team. And by whittling away, I mean Randy did most of, if not all of the work. I gave Flameo an Oranberry as a treat, and the trainers in Nugget Bridge proved to be massive pushovers and easy EXP. The man at the end paid me and threatened me to join Team Rocket. He lost. I caught an Oddish on Route 24, tried to name it Weed Funny but accidentally deleted the last letter in his name, found candy in an old man's backyard, found another Oddish on Route 25, named him Pot Comedy, and started to make my way towards Bill's house, battling trainers along the way. I found Bill and helped him become a real boy once again. The Clefairy he was combined with never left the pod, leading me to believe the Clefairy is now nothing more than a pile of flesh on the floor. He gave me a boat ticket in exchange for my silence. I battled the Rocket Grunt in Cerulean, found a Meowth at Route 5, called it a furry, left Pot Comedy at the daycare, and after grinding and subsequently losing Meowth, I ran south. I went back to Cerulean when I realized I forgot to buy Pokeballs, entered Route 6, and found another stupid Pidgey, caught it anyway and refused to name it. Inside Vermilion City, I got the Versus Seeker, which will make grinding infinitely easier, and started working to get my team up to level 25. Weed Funny became Gloom, and the Pidgey that shall not be named became Pidgeotto. Later on, I boarded the SSN and started battling the passengers and crew while stealing their stuff. Wasted a super potion after I found out I could rest in one of the cabins. Found a sailor who told me he likes feisty kids, so I beat the shit out of his seahorses as a warning. The sailor next door threatened to kill me if I lost, so I wandered into the kitchen and one of the chefs told me there was expired fruit that I could take. One of the passengers was kind enough to show me a photo of his ex-wife. Gary showed up, and I curb stomped his team into the dirt. I rubbed an old man's back, and he rewarded me with knowledge. I left my wallet on the boat, and entered the Vermilion gym to clear the trainers inside. After realizing I only have like 3 useful Pokemon here, I went to Route 11 and caught an Ekans, naming it S. Guess what I found in Diglewood's cave? I picked up Flash again, took Ekans with me, caught an emergency Rattata on Route 22, named him Rat Boy, got a sweet looking rock from Pewter City, taught Flameo Seismic Toss, and Ekans died. On Route 9, I caught another Rattata, and named it Piss. On Route 10, I caught a Voltorb, and gave it the only good name it deserves. By the time I was back in Vermilion, most of my team was at either level 28 or 27. I forgot about the absolute nonsense that is this gym's puzzle. You can even call it a puzzle since it only seems to be based around luck. Once in a battle with Surge, Flameo made quick work of most of his Pokemon. Only the Raichu put up a bit of a fight, but Weed Funny finished him off, getting me the Thunder Badge. I just want to note that if it seems like I'm skipping a lot, that's on purpose. A lot of these recordings are mainly just grinding, and as of this point in the script, this is the 4th of 10 recordings for this particular playthrough. Voltorb was next on the grinding train. I wondered why an electrician was laying down live wires in a field where there are both wild animals and children running around. I bought enough medicine to make the clerk want to send a tip to the DEA. A Magneton made me freak out when it wiped 20 HP from Spherical, so I took out Flameo just to be safe. Made a mental note of the Snorlax on Route 12, and took stock on my Pokemon. A Diglett with Arena Traps screwed me over because, spoiler alert, ground beats electric. Spherical the Voltorb died an unceremonious death. I put down a Repel, which the game proceeded to ignore because a Dugtrio showed up, said hello, and took Loser the Pidgeotto with it. Around this point, my brother put an idea in my head for later on, but more on that later. Once I was in safety, Pidgeotto the Pidgeotto and Piss the Rattata joined the party. Piss died in Mount Moon. He will not be missed. I entered Rock Tunnel and gave myself the ability to see after teaching Weed Funny Flash. I caught another Zubat and ran the joke into the ground. Apparently the Kanto furry community was banished here long ago. The first 3 trainers I battled were Pokemaniacs. Jared Little the Zubat did about as well as anyone would have expected. Once I was back on Route 10 proper, my surviving team was between levels 28 and 30, and ran to the Pokemon Center in Purple Village. I battled Fisherman on Route 12, did my first double battle, ran back into Snorlax, went to Route 8, tried to avoid a battle and failed miserably. They gave me a Pidgey again in an area that I know has Growlithe, didn't even bother catching it. I went underground towards Celadon, caught another Meowth on Route 7, named it Bingus. A grown man started attacking me in the casino. He vanished into nowhere after I beat him. I got the coin case from a loser in a restaurant, got some tea, stole a Manzivi, named it Fuddrucker, gambled for a bit, and went down to the Team Rocket hideout. Throughout the Rocket hideout, I did a combination of training along with looting while harassing various Rocket grunts along the way. I wasted a rare candy on Bingus only for a coughing to do a murder-suicide. After encountering a Sandslash that somehow knew Poison Sting, I met Giovanni for the first time. His reaction upon seeing me was to show me his Onix. Much like Brock before him, using Flameo to spam Metal Claw did the trick on both that and his Rhyhorn, but his Kangaskhan took a bit of work. He rewarded me for humiliating him with binoculars, and after saying goodbye to Bingus, Fuddrucker joined the crew. I spent some time in Walmart, bought a Thunder and Leafstone, got my body weight in Lemonade, and evolved Weed Funny into Vileplume. The game then glitched with my controller, which can only be solved by reopening the game. I made a save state for this type of incident only, and after talking to the creep watching women at the Celadon gym, I made my way to get the Rainbow Badge. Newsflash, grass tends to burn. At some point during it all, I evolved Fuddrucker into Jolteon, someone accused me of being a creep, I continued my rampage, scrambled the lady's eggs, and gave myself a slight challenge by using Beedrill to deal with the gym leader. Got the rainbow badge, gave the cops something to drink, and started walking back towards Halloween Town and into Pokemon Tower. I had seen Gary waiting for me and backed out, feeling I wasn't ready. An excessive amount of training later, I confronted Gary, who asked if my Pokemon were dead. Mine weren't, but his will be, because I grossly overestimated how powerful his team would be. He went down like nothing. I put down repels and battled my way through the tower, and this is where I goofed. Not a run-ending goof, but a goof nonetheless. I remembered ages ago that there was a Marowak at the top of Pokemon Tower that you got to battle. The repels were to prevent the wild Ghastly from within the tower from getting in my way and ruining my one Pokemon to catch. My assumption was that despite being a ghost, the Marowak would be catchable. I couldn't have possibly been more wrong. And because of my ignorance, I lost Flameo. I could not have picked a more perfect place for him to go. Around here I was thinking how to treat this Pokemon encounter because the game actively prevents you from being able to catch it. I decided that even though this is a wild Pokemon encounter, since you are not allowed to catch this Pokemon by design, it does not count as the first wild encounter in the area. To ensure Flameo's death would not be in vain, I was given the Pokeflute and battled Snorlax. Catching this thing was a monumental pain in the ass. Rest is absolutely overpowered as it not only fully heals, but clears any status conditions and replaces it with sleep. I wasted a good amount of Pokeballs and healing items trying to fight him, but was eventually successful in catching it. With Snorlax under my belt to replace Flameo, I named him Thickums, healed back in Vermilion, and planned my next move. I picked up the Super Rod while headed south to open myself to more Pokemon in more locations that don't have grass but do have water, picked up a Venonat on Route 13 and then a Ditto on Route 15. We're at the 6th recording for this goddamn playthrough by now, and based on my notes, not much happened in this one apart from a guy trying to rob me. I met Spunkle the Gyarados in Vermilion City, had a stroke at Celadon, tried my hand at the fighting dojo in Saffron, and rewarded myself with the best robot in Fallout New Vegas. Caught a Doduo on Route 18, a second Doduo took Fisto from me, and then I lost Gloopy the Ditto. I was really starting to get annoyed with losing Pokemon now. I grinded with Gyarados until he was on par with the rest of the team and entered Fuchsia City. While battling trainers inside, I sped up the game in frustration and lost Weed Funny. Burbsley the Doduo got tagged in. I tried my hand at the Safari Zone, and I decided that since Pokemon can run away on their own, I could catch whatever Pokemon I wanted, provided I could only get one. I chose Execute, choosing to name him Benedict. I remembered I had Doduo in the party and realized I forgot to pull his sprite from the sheet I got from Spriter's Resource. I put Randy on the bench briefly to take Execute Benedict with me. A Muck got rid of him, so I said screw it and went to take on Koga. This very decision is where the run went downhill. I was not prepared to fight him at all. His Muck proved to be annoying and it reminded me why I had Muck in my team in Pokemon X. He is a massive pain. I lost Gyarados and pulled out Snorlax to will him down. All was good in the world until Weezing showed up. Snorlax went down, then Doduo, then Beedrill, then Jolteon. Koga took my backup wallet and sent me packing. Let me tell you, losing 6 Pokemon in a normal playthrough is annoying. Losing 6 Pokemon in what essentially amounts to permadeath runs is absolutely maddening. In my boxes, I only had Randy the Raticate and Ugly the Venonat. This is the Pokemon equivalent of having your house broken into and being left with nothing but pennies and lint. My only saving grace was that Randy was level 36, so he wasn't entirely useless. I took a moment to release my Pokemon after realizing that Koga essentially knocked me back to the Stone Age, and I had to think, how on earth was I going to even begin to salvage this run? I'm past halfway through the game. I really did not want to restart. I spent time trying to get Ugly the Venonat up to speed with limited success, and I soon wandered back into Saffron City to deal with Team Rocket. I figured getting rid of them first would be wise instead of diving back into Fuchsia City. When I inevitably lost to Venonat in the building, I realized I was quite literally down to my last Pokemon period, and I needed to catch something. I left Slivko and ran back to Lavender Town to get me a Ghastly. I dubbed him Asbestos and ran back to the daycare because at this point I had completely forgotten about the Oddish I left there. He did plenty of growing up while I was gone since he was at level 35 when I picked him up, and I left my emergency Rattata in his place. I tried catching another Gyarados in Viridian City, but it killed itself while I tried to catch it. Pot Comedy evolved into Gloom, Ghastly succumbed to mesothelioma, and I caught a Goldeen to replace it, who died while grinding. I was really not in the best headspace by this point. I vented my frustrations on Team Rocket and decided it was full steam ahead on getting them out of Saffron, though I did take a short breather to get another Leaf Stone and help Pot Comedy evolve into Vileplume. As I used the Giga Drain TM, I realized it was a good thing I didn't teach this to Weed Funny. Back in Slivco, Randy finally bit the dust much to my frustration. In a fit of anger, I used pot comedy to steamroll everyone else on that floor, got the hell out of Slivco, and said goodbye to Randy. At this point in time, all of the original team members from the beginning of the game are now dead. I gave Pot Comedy all the drugs I had on hand and went back in the building. He has no choice but to become a tank until I can get more Pokemon into my party. After a certain point, I found Gary, who, being the asshat that he is, wanted to battle, and of course the first f***ing Pokemon he whips out is Pidgeot. Somehow I managed to wipe out the rest of his team successfully. A combination of powders and attacks made the battle a piece of cake. An absolute king gave me a Lapras for free, and after naming it Broski, I pushed along, battled Giovanni again, and got Team Rocket removed from the city. I traveled west of Celadon because apparently I didn't do that yet, and found out there's another Snorlax. Same deal as before, tried my best not to faint it, and was able to catch it after a large amount of effort. Since I already used the Thickums name, I gave it the only other name appropriate for a Pokemon like this. With a new Snorlax now with me, I got back to work and spent a whole goddamn hour grinding after picking up Rat Boy from the daycare. By the end of it all, my entire team was bordering on level 50. At that point, it was time to get rid of Koga. Broski the Lapras did the heavy lifting here, knocking out every single Pokemon the bastard had and getting me the Soul Badge. 5 down, 3 to go. I went to Saffron to get that gym out of the way, Sabrina was no issue whatsoever, and I got the Marsh Badge. I realized I hadn't gotten the Surf HM yet, so after looking up where it was, I ran back to Fuchsia City to haul ass to the Safari Zone, gave an old man his teeth back, and got strength while I was at it too. Taught Snorlax how to swim, found a depressed guy in the ocean, got Tentacool on Route 19, got another Gyarados on Route 20, and landed at the Seafoam Islands. Remember how I mentioned an idea earlier? Well, there's a very special bird in here. I put down rappel after rappel and did whatever I could to solve the boulder puzzle, and after plenty of trial and error, I came face to face with Articuno. I hoped to put it to sleep, but I nearly lost Vile Plume in the process. I then used Big Chungus as a meat shield and got to work spamming Pokeball after Pokeball in hopes I could be able to catch it. No matter how many Ultra Balls I threw at it though, the big blue bastard broke out of every single one, and I really did not want to waste the Master Ball. In desperation, I started throwing Great Balls just to use and not even expecting to actually catch it in one. Then, after 26 Pokeballs, I caught Articuno in a matching ball, no less. I wish I was recording my voice when this happened, because as soon as I saw that thing click shut, I was going absolutely apeshit. I could not believe what had just happened. Even rewatching the footage a couple weeks after recording, I still feel the hype from that moment. I didn't even name it. A catch that good does not deserve a stupid nickname. Once the hype died off, I landed in Cinnabar and entered Pokemon Mansion. I caught a Grimer while I was in there, got a key to the gym, and did some fishing. I caught a Horsey in an area that's technically a route, did some more in town, and should mention that I was marathoning the last portion of the game by this point and completely forgot the Pokemon Lab was present in this town, so now the fossils I had were nothing more than placeholders. The hamster that runs my brain was not running on the wheel at full speed. The gym is apparently filled with criminals. Lapras was doing the heavy lifting again, Water Pulse one-shotted most opponents, the son of Flameo made an appearance. I met Blaine, began the battle, and his Rapidash somehow survived Water Pulse. Spoiler alert, he lost. The Volcano Badge is mine now. Bill was apparently following me, and he took me for a little trip on his boat. I was happy to know I had more places to catch Pokemon now. I was thirsty, some guy lost his daughter, caught a Meowth, named it after another stupid mean cat. On 3 Island, I battled a group of bikers who were all pushovers, found a Pidgeotto, made some kids cry. I can't remember when I taught Big Chungus how to use Hyper Beam, but at some point I made him a complete powerhouse. In Berry Forest, I remembered reading online that there is a Hypno that you can catch here. Once I found the kid, I did just that, dubbing the new ally Houdini. With a healthy set of backup Pokemon, I gave Bill's friend his junk and swam back to Pallet There was one gym left, and it was time to get it over with. Ground types were this gym's specialty. If the trainers here were as cool as they claim, they would not be losing to Articuno. Ice Beam was more than enough to knock out a good chunk of the Pokemon inside. At the end of the gym, Giovanni waited for me once again. Whopper the Gyarados went first, ripping the team apart bit by bit. Giovanni was eventually defeated for the last time, and the Earth Badge was now in my hands. He left reality, and I left for the Pokemon League. The end of the game and the bane of my existence was finally within reach. You know, once I got Gary to finally off, of course. Once he was gone, I ran back to Vermilion to get on the boat back to 1 Island. This was mainly to get some more Pokemon. I ran into a Geodude, which would have been nice to have if it didn't have a pipe bomb strapped to its back. After bathing with an old man, I realized that since I'm already at Mount Ember, I asked myself a question. Why stop at Articuno? I spammed repels yet again, battling trainers and pushing boulders around, and before I knew it, Moltres was in my sight. 27 balls later, I had 2 of the 3 legendary birds. If you're familiar with the game, I should not have to tell you where my next destination was. The Kanto power plant, aka the home of Zapdos. Once I found Big Bird, I managed to somehow catch him in significantly less time. I realized while writing the script I should mention that at some point I gave Snorlax an item that increases the chances he moves first. I just can't remember what it was called or when I did it. Editing Max will pull that up. I was not ready to deal with the Pokemon League. I caught a Mankey on the way there and gave him something stupid because I was running out of names. Inside Victory Road, I met Swole Patrol the Matchup and forgot how annoying the boulder puzzles were in this area. Once inside the Elite Four building proper, I did some shopping, selling the items I no longer needed and buying medicine. I didn't have flies, so going back through Victory Road to catch more Pokemon, what little was left, was not an option. I entered Victory Road to do some pre-battle battling and get most of my team up to level 60 save for Moltres. I did one final shopping trip to clear out my wallet and stepped inside. I want to say now that as a kid, I could never beat the Elite Four. Everything else was fine, it was the first lady on the Elite Four that always gave me a hard time. Lorelei and her ice Pokemon would throw me and my garbage team into the trash every single time without fail. I was honestly wondering how I was going to do with a team full of Pokemon I don't normally use in the current day and age. Snorlax did a bang-up job of taking her team down. One by one, each and every single one of her Pokemon fell before me. Slowbro gave me a few problems but soon went down as well. Lapras tagged in, and then her Jinx was finished off by Gyarados with a single Hyper Beam. Bruno was next on the chopping block with his Fighting-type Pokemon. This battle was largely a pushover. Gyarados handled everything well right up until I lost him to his Machamp. I actually started to panic because in a normal playthrough, I can hit him with a revive and call it a day. I can't do that here. Gyarados is dead. As a risk, I pulled out Big Chungus for the kill and watched his Machamp send him to near death. Vileplume ended up being the one to do the killing blow through a combination of sleep powder and brute forcing every single attack at my disposal. After some struggling, his Machamp was done. His Hitmonlee was significantly easier to deal with, mostly because he was spamming Mega Kick. Since grass types are not that weak to fighting moves, it wasn't urgent. His last Pokemon, Onix, went down in a single hit. With that, Bruno was finished. As I healed, I thought carefully on how to proceed. I put Lapras front and center and confronted Agatha next. Gengar was up first. 2 hits with Psychic, followed by Water Pulse, took him out. Her Golbat wasn't too much of a problem either. Arbok went down in 2 shots, her second Gengar did too. Haunter was no big deal, though the frequent use of Hypnosis proved to be an issue. I nearly lost Moltres, but it thankfully clutched and got rid of them, finishing Agatha. Up next, Dragons. So Articuno was placed front and center. His first one? Gyarados, which was a curveball. I used Toxic to poison it while I bought time, letting one hit with Blizzard knock it out. Aerodactyl followed afterward, and Ancient Power nearly sent Articuno to the pearly gates. I tried to use potions to buy time right up until it used Hyper Beam, allowing me to slap it down with Ice Beam. Dragonair went down in one hit with Blizzard, and second Dragonair did the same. Dragonite suffered the same fate. After this, only the champion was left. And who else would it be other than my arch nemesis E? He pulled out Pidgeot, I pulled out Big Chungus, and remembering what annoys me, he spammed Sand Attack because of course he did. I thought Hyper Beam would buy me time, but it didn't because he healed immediately. I tried to use Body Slam, but I kept missing. I kept going hoping Snorlax would land a hit, and he eventually did. 1 down, 5 to go. Alakazam was next, but I was running out of good moves to use with him. Hyper Beam was out, and Body Slam was close to 0. It didn't matter in the end because he landed a critical hit taking him from 190 HP all the way down to 0. Big Chungus fought to his last breath. Here was where I really panicked. I pulled out Lapras and slammed it with Water Pulse, only for him to switch to Executor. I pulled out Moltres in response, and he put them to sleep. One full restore later, Fire Blast finished that job. Blastoise was up, which meant Pot Comedy was on the table now. He spammed Hydro Pump, I countered with Giga Drain, he responded with Arcanine, I responded with Lapras again. Rhydon was easy pickings, and at this point, I was in the clear. I ran out of Hydro Pumps, but that was okay. One successful hit with Sheer Cold made his Alakazam worthless. All that remained was Blastoise. I pushed through with Lapras before switching to Vileplume after he used a full restore. Bite kept making him flinch, scaring the hell out of me. After a quick heal, he stupidly used Rain Dance, I landed a cut, and that was the end of the battle. The game is effectively finished. Oak got too excited, he took me to the Hall of Fame, the Dream Team was recorded in the history books, and not only did I beat Pokemon FireRed in a Nuzlocke Run, but I also beat Pokemon FireRed in general for the very first time since I started playing it. Thank you for watching, leave your thoughts down in comments below, and consider subscribing if you'd like to see more in the future. This run was recorded using a North American copy of Pokemon FireRed being emulated in Visual Boy Advance. I'm Mr. Max, I'll see you next time.
conquering